Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. In the bustling, sun-drenched city of Persia, where the air hummed with the cries of merchants and the scent of spices, lived two brothers, vastly different in fortune and temperament. The elder, Qasim, was a man of immense wealth. His warehouses overflowed with silks, his stables housed the finest Arabian horses, and his counting houses swelled with gold. He had achieved this fortune through a shrewd, often ruthless, business acumen, inheriting a modest trade and expanding it into an empire. His home was a palace, his comforts endless, yet his heart remained as cold and hard as the coins he hoarded. The younger brother, Ali Baba, possessed none of Qasim's material blessings. He was a humble woodcutter, whose daily existence was a ceaseless struggle against poverty. Each morning, before the first blush of dawn painted the desert sky, Ali Baba would yoke his 3 donkeys and trek into the vast, unforgiving forest that bordered the city. There, he would spend long, arduous hours felling trees, his axe rising and falling with a rhythmic sigh until his donkeys were laden with timber. He would then return to the city, his back aching, his hands calloused, to sell his modest load in the marketplace for barely enough to feed his wife and 2 young children. Despite his hardship, Ali Baba possessed a spirit far richer than his brothers. He was kind, honest, and content with the simple joys of life. One sweltering afternoon, Ali Baba was deeper in the forest than usual. The day had been particularly unyielding, good timber was scarce, and his donkeys were still half empty. He considered giving up for the day, returning with what he had, when a sudden, distant cloud of dust caught his eye. At first, he thought it might be a caravan. But as the cloud drew nearer, a different realization dawned upon him. It was a troop of horsemen, riding with a fierce purpose, their numbers suggesting something far more sinister. There were 40 of them, a formidable band, and they approached with an air of menace that spoke of brigandry and danger. He quickly drove his donkeys into a thicket of dense bushes, urging them to silence with soft, urgent whispers, then found a precarious hiding spot for himself high up in the branches of a mighty plane tree. The 40 horsemen, indeed a fearsome band of thieves, arrived at a clearing near a towering, solitary rock face. Their leader dismounted first. His men, hardened and grim-faced, followed suit, tethering their horses and gathering around their chief. The leader strode confidently towards the bare rock face. He then spoke, his voice carrying clearly in the hushed forest air, "Open sesame." A large section of the rock face, previously indistinguishable from the surrounding stone, began to creak and groan. Slowly, majestically, a hidden doorway materialized, grinding open to reveal a dark, cavernous passage leading into the mountain's depths. The sight was utterly unbelievable, a marvel of secret engineering or perhaps magic. The 40 thieves, with practiced efficiency, began to unload large, heavy sacks from their horses' backs. They disappeared one by one into the mountain's secret maw, the leader being the last to enter. Ali Baba watched, mesmerized, as the heavy stone door then began to close, sealing itself seamlessly into the rock face, leaving no trace of the opening it had revealed. He waited for what felt like an eternity, long after the last echo of the horsemen's hooves had faded into the wilderness, before finally daring to descend. He recalled the precise words spoken by the leader of the thieves, words that held a power beyond natural explanation. "Open sesame." The mountain groaned again. The hidden door began to slide open, revealing the dark, inviting maw of the cave. He pushed the door wider and entered. Gold coins lay heaped in shining piles, spilling out of leather sacks and broken chests. Jewels, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires sparkled with cold fire, scattered on the floor like pebbles. Rich silks lay stacked high, their colors muted by the cave's dim light, and bars of silver lay stacked like firewood. He quickly realized he could not possibly carry all this away. His conscience, though tested by the sheer magnitude of the fortune, reminded him that he only needed enough to lift his family out of poverty, not enough to become a thief himself. He quickly filled 3 small leather bags with gold coins, deciding that his donkeys could carry no more than that without arousing suspicion. He then stood at the mouth of the cave and commanded, "Close, sesame." The heavy stone door obeyed, sealing his secret once more. He collected his donkeys, tied the precious bags securely beneath the remaining bundles of firewood, and headed home. When he arrived, he found his wife waiting. He revealed his secret, staggering her with the sight of the gold. Their first priority was to measure the incredible wealth, a task that, ironically, they could not do without attracting attention. Ali Baba's wife suggested they borrow a measuring cup, specifically a large-capacity Modius scale, from someone in the village. After a moment's thought, she decided the safest person to ask was Qasim's wife, who, being wealthy, was sure to have one. Ali Baba's wife walked to the magnificent palace of Qasim and requested to borrow his wife's scale. Qasim's wife, fueled by suspicion and a need to know exactly what a poor woodcutter needed to measure, slyly rubbed the bottom of the scale with a piece of suet before handing it over. When Ali Baba and his wife finished their ecstatic counting, finding they possessed 100 times more gold than they could have imagined, they returned the scale. Qasim's wife immediately checked the bottom and gasped. Stuck to the suet was a single gold coin. Raging with envy and suspicion, she rushed to her husband, Qasim. "You think you are rich, but your brother, Ali Baba, is richer than you. He measures his wealth with a scale." Qasim, whose wealth was his very identity, was furious and incredulous. He confronted Ali Baba, forcing him to reveal the source of his new fortune. Ali Baba, gentle and trusting and still feeling the familial bond despite his brother's coldness, told Qasim everything: the forest location, the horsemen, and the 2 magic words. The next morning, Qasim set out before dawn with 10 powerful mules, far more than Ali Baba's 3 donkeys. He found the rock face easily and, shouting, "Open, sesame," in a voice ringing with avarice, entered the cavern. He was momentarily stunned by the splendor, but his greed quickly overcame his awe. He did not pause to measure or count. He simply began tearing the silks, filling the enormous bags he had brought, piling them high with gold and jewels. When the sacks were full to bursting, Qasim realized he needed to leave. He stood at the entrance, his heart pounding with the excitement of his sudden, unprecedented wealth, but his mind had gone blank. The simple words had vanished from his memory, replaced by the ringing noise of gold. "Open barley," he shouted. Nothing happened. "Open wheat," he bellowed, frantic now. The rock remained silent. He tried every grain he could remember, maize, rye, millet, but the words "open sesame" eluded him. The thieves returned a few hours later. They were instantly suspicious when they saw the 10 mules grazing outside their secret entrance. The leader barked the command and the door opened, revealing Qasim sitting amidst their stolen wealth, paralyzed with terror. The thieves, enraged by the intrusion and the potential compromise of their secret, showed him no mercy. They drew their swords and cut him down, leaving his body in 4 pieces inside the cave as a gruesome warning to any future intruders. They closed the cave, left their horses, and debated what to do next. The leader concluded that someone else knew their secret and had been bold enough to send a reconnaissance team, Qasim and his mules. They needed to send one of the thieves back to the city to learn who knew their secret and eliminate them. When Qasim did not return that evening, Ali Baba, racked with guilt and fear, rode to the cave. He used the secret command, and the sight that met his eyes, his brother's mutilated body, filled him with sorrow and dread. Ali Baba brought the body back home under the cover of night. He knew he could not bury Qasim without alerting his entire family and the city to the mysterious circumstances of his death, which would inevitably lead back to the cave. He needed a plan, and for that, he turned to the one person he could trust implicitly, Qasim's intelligent and resourceful slave girl, Morgiana. Morgiana was exceptionally clever and loyal. When Ali Baba explained the predicament, she immediately devised a plan to make Qasim's death appear natural. First, she went to an old, respected tailor named Baba Mustafa, blindfolding him before leading him to Ali Baba's house. There, in a dimly lit room, she demanded he stitch Qasim's body back together, paying him a substantial sum of gold and threatening him with death if he ever revealed his strange night's work. Next, Morgiana went to a local apothecary and purchased a powerful medicine usually reserved for the most serious of illnesses, pretending the medicine was for Qasim, who was gravely ill. She then spread the word to Qasim's household and neighbors that Qasim was rapidly failing. Finally, she arranged for a proper funeral with the body concealed. The entire city believed that Qasim had died a natural, if sudden, death from his illness, and the funeral proceeded without suspicion. Meanwhile, the thief leader, still determined to find the intruder, sent a thief into the city. This thief found the tailor, Baba Mustafa, who, under pressure and blinded by the lure of more gold, revealed that he had stitched a man's body back together in the dark. The thief pressed him for details until the tailor, though blindfolded, managed to lead the thief to Ali Baba's house, remembering the exact route and the position of the house. The thief marked the front door with a chalk white cross. The quick-witted Morgiana noticed the white cross soon after it was drawn. Realizing the danger, she immediately went to every single house in the street and marked them all with an identical white cross, rendering the mark useless. When the 40 thieves returned that night, they were thrown into chaos by the multitude of crosses. The frustrated leader had to send a second thief to find the house, and when that thief also failed due to Morgiana's countermarking. The third time, the chief decided to handle the matter himself. He found Baba Mustafa and, by remembering the exact landmarks, identified Ali Baba's house. This time, instead of using chalk, the leader memorized every feature of the house. The chief of the thieves then devised a truly audacious plan. He purchased 38 enormous jars, one for himself and 37 for his remaining men. He placed one man, fully armed, inside each of the 37 jars, leaving a single jar for himself, which he filled with oil. Disguising himself as an oil merchant, he loaded the jars onto his mules and rode to Ali Baba's house just before nightfall. He approached Ali Baba and begged for shelter, claiming he was transporting his precious oil to the market and had been delayed. Ali Baba, generous and kind, welcomed the merchant and offered him a place to rest and a stable for his mules. The jars of oil were stacked in the courtyard, near the kitchen. That night, as the thieves lay hidden in the jars, preparing to emerge and murder Ali Baba and his household, Morgiana, preparing a lamp in the kitchen, suddenly realized she was out of oil. Instead of disturbing Ali Baba, she decided to slip out to the courtyard to take some from the jars. As she approached the first jar, she heard a voice from inside whisper, "Is it time, Captain?" Morgiana, realizing the terrible danger, was quick-thinking and fearless. She understood the true nature of the oil merchant. She whispered back, imitating the captain's deep voice, "No, not yet. Wait for my signal." She quickly moved from jar to jar, hearing the same anxious question and giving the same reply. When she reached the final jar, she saw the actual oil, but she had a better idea. She returned to the kitchen and put a large cauldron of oil on the fire, heating it until it was boiling hot. Morgiana then went back to the courtyard. With incredible speed and strength, she poured the scalding hot oil into each of the 37 jars, killing the 37 thieves inside instantly. Satisfied, she returned to the house, making no noise. The chief of the thieves, sleeping soundly in his room, woke around midnight and went out to the courtyard. He opened his own jar and, smelling no oil, called softly for his men. Receiving no answer, he grew suspicious. When he checked the first few jars and realized what had happened, he fled in terror, escaping over the walls of the castle and into the dark night. The next morning, Ali Baba awoke to find the strange merchant gone. When Morgiana led him to the courtyard and revealed the dead thieves in the jars, Ali Baba was overcome with gratitude. He formally freed Morgiana, making her a member of his family, and swore to keep her safe. The chief of the thieves, now the only surviving member of his band, was consumed by a burning desire for revenge. He set up a shop in the city as a respectable silk and spice merchant, determined to find and kill Ali Baba. He spent months cultivating a friendship with Ali Baba's son, whom Ali Baba had set up in his late brother Qasim's business. Eventually, the chief was invited to dinner at Ali Baba's house. Morgiana, with her keen eye, instantly recognized the new merchant's intense, wolfish gaze as being the same as the oil merchant's. She noticed that he had deliberately avoided salt in his dish, a sign of one seeking to avenge blood according to ancient desert custom. She knew this was the captain of the thieves, and the dinner was his final ambush. During the feast, Morgiana decided she would act as an entertainer. Dressed in a dazzling, professional dancer's costume, she performed a spectacular dagger dance for the guests. As she drew her daggers, spinning and leaping, she momentarily paused in front of the chief. Swiftly and powerfully, before anyone could react, she plunged a dagger straight into his heart. Ali Baba was horrified, demanding to know why she had slain his guest. Morgiana calmly pulled back the merchant's robes to reveal the weapons hidden beneath and explained how the chief had used the oil jars and now the dinner to try and murder them. Ali Baba, seeing his life saved once more by the courage and foresight of Morgiana, was overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. He immediately married her to his son, giving her not only freedom, but the highest honor possible. With the formidable chief of the 40 Thieves finally gone, Ali Baba was free to return to the cave and claim the rest of the treasure. He carefully rode to the rock face, spoke the words, and took only what he needed, ensuring he managed his immense wealth responsibly and with great kindness. Ali Baba and his family lived out their days in prosperity, happiness, and peace, knowing that their fortune was not founded on greed, but on the simple, honest courage and the extraordinary cunning of a single, loyal woman. The secret of open sesame was passed down, but the story was taught not as a lesson in magic, but as a lesson in prudence, kindness, and the intelligence of the brave Morgiana. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe the channel and like the video. Thank you.